Shalom and a warm welcome back to Money Matter Show. Did you know that Esther's story carried a remarkable foreshadow of the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ? I know you're wondering, how could the story of Esther possibly point to the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ? Well, grab your book, grab your Bible, and let's do this as always. This is your girl Moegi Komboka. The story of Esther in the book of Esther carries a pattern, same to the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ. And I'll take you step by step. The decree in the story of Esther had been already passed, and King Ahasuerus had authorized a decree against the Jews. An accuser had risen, and this accuser, as always we know him, was Haman. Haman had gone before the king and accused the Jews, and his accusation had produced or pronounced a decree of death upon the Jews. An entire people had been marked for destruction. Now, let me move you from the book of Esther to the New Testament. Another accusation had been made, and Jesus had been arrested. He had been brought before the authorities. By who? By the religious leaders who had accused him. As you can see in both stories, we can see accusers. Alright, he being Jesus had been taken before Pontius Pilate, and the accusations had eventually resulted in a death sentence. Clearly, you can see in both stories there was a death sentence. Alright, in Esther there had been an accuser, and in the story of Jesus there was an accuser. Alright. In Esther, an accusation had resulted in the death decree. And in the New Testament, accusation had resulted in Jesus being sentenced to death. In Esther, God's people had stood under a sentence of death. And in the New Testament, Jesus had stood under a sentence of